Happy 2017. It's January 2nd, and I have been lucky enough to be spending the last days of 2016 and the first days of 2017 up in a beautiful log cabin. And I want to share with you a couple of practices that have been helping me to tune in to my heart. The heart chakra is, I believe, the destination of the yoga practice, and there are interesting physiological ways that we can get into the heart chakra by working through our hands and especially in the shoulder girdle, and energetically through our breath, because the breath carries our attention toward wherever it is that we bring our attention and our breath. So we will do some work with breathing and a few therapeutic physical exercises to attune us and help us tend to the heart. So I welcome you to join me in this practice. I'm sitting on a makeshift bolster because I don't have one at the cottage. I just rolled up a pillow in a blanket. So if you have a bolster or some creativity, you can create something to sit on that is comfortable enough for you to be in either a kneeling position or a cross-legged position that helps to support your hips, knees, and ankles. This pose is Virasana, and all 10 toenails are grounded on the floor, and ankles are hugging the object between my legs, and the pelvis is feeling good and supported. You can elevate your pelvis a little higher to possibly find more comfort in a sitting position. But once you get to a comfortable seat, I invite you to either close your eyes or keep them really soft. And in order to keep them soft and passive, I suggest gazing down toward somewhere in front of you, about 3 to 6 feet, and begin to take your attention inward. So with the eyes soft or closed, begin drawing your attention to the area behind the breastbone, just in front of the spine, where the energy of the heart rests. So it could take some time to gather your distracted mind from the periphery into the core of the heart. Just with patience and intent, bring your attention to the area behind the breastbone, in front of the spine. Sometimes it helps to internally gaze toward the energy of the heart. And if the eyes are open, you can steer the gaze down toward the lower lids, as if you could have a look at the energy of your heart, which is right in the center of the chest. And as I mentioned before, the breath will carry your attention toward the heart. And one way to do that is to focus on the movement that may or may not be happening around the heart area. And when the body begins to relax and the breath softens, you might be able to feel some bobbing or pulsating around the chest as the lungs inflate and deflate. the tissues and bones bob up and down, kind of in a dance with your breath. Just noticing the state of the heart in this moment. Also noticing any expectations or judgment that might come into your experience. And set the intention to be with the energy of your heart as it is in this particular moment. So we can cultivate an authentic connection, an authentic communication with our heart center. So a raw, present-based experience. Beginning with curiosity. What is the state of the heart in this present moment? And expanding our capacity to be with whatever it is that arises. Trusting that this particular energetic center's purpose is compassion, so can we extend a compassionate quality toward whatever that arises in the heart space? Can we hold space for ourselves to become more and more present in the very center point of the heart, knowing that in its very center there is infinite potential for opening, for an opening to compassion, a compassion that begins at the very center of our heart and radiates outward in all directions, so that whatever comes into its field can also share, can also receive and offer the same compassion that comes from its authentic center out into the periphery and back in constant flow. And as we will our hearts to expand at whatever rate and capacity that it allows in this moment, I wonder if it's possible to feel the heart's energy radiating across the collarbones, across the entire chest and the front body and the back body, across the shoulder blades, right to the shoulder joint itself. Down the upper arms into the elbows, and down from the elbows into the forearms, wrists, and hands. Taking the time to be with the sensory experience from hands to heart, and from heart to hands. Knowing that our hands are an extension of our hearts. And you can take the hands together in front of the heart. To create a cyclical energy from the heart to the hands, an infinite flowing energy. Continuing to recognize the bobbing of the breath. You can take the thumbs to meet the breastbone area so that they're in contact. And have this tactile experience of the breath rhythm. That represents the energy pulsating and flowing within you. Not separate or different than the rhythm or pulsating energy around you. can bow our heads towards our hearts in humble recognition and gratitude. And feel the heart lift up in response. And beginning to rub the hands together so that there's an energy between the palms. And then resting the palms lightly, so gently over the eyes, just cupping the upper part of the face. And lightly blinking the eyes open in that dark space behind the hands. And slowly opening up into the space around you. And beginning to take the hands to the mat in front of you so that they're shoulder distance apart. And we'll start with the fingertips turned slightly inward. And then begin moving the chest around so that the wrists begin to open, the hands begin to open with some movement as we weight bear on the hands. So it's almost like the heart could have a laser light shining down from it, and we're sort of moving that around the mat from between the hands, behind the hands, maybe outside the wrists. It doesn't really matter which direction you go, but just allowing yourself to breathe and stay connected to the sensations that arise in the hands and maybe up the forearms and into the shoulders possibly, across the upper back. I'm beginning to turn the fingers to face a little more forward and shifting around there. So eventually making our way all the way around, you can begin turning the fingertips outward slightly and play with the distance of the hands. They can be wide or a little closer together, and just noticing how that changes the sensory experience, possibly the breath, possibly the mind state. Turning the fingertips to face a little more toward the back of the mat. And continuing to breathe from hands to heart, from heart to hands, and shifting the fingers all the way back. And the forward back movement here should give us more of a stretch for the underside of the forearms. Just going at your own pace and whatever range feels appropriate without strain. And beginning to peel back slowly from the wrist edge towards the fingertips. And slowly coming back into the seat, turning the back of the hands together so that the back of the wrists touch and all 10 fingernails touch. Allow your elbows to drop heavy, so pressing the elbows down slightly and relaxing the upper shoulders. We're going to curl our baby finger in only. So this is a little difficult and sometimes takes the mind power of something like bending a spoon with your mind might require. So baby fingers in and all other fingers, 8 fingers, fingernails touching. And then try the ring finger curling in as close to the pit of the palm as you can. And as you do that, check that your elbows are still heavy and the tops of your shoulders are remaining soft. And middle fingers curling into the pit of the palm while the back of the wrists touch. And continuing to breathe. And then index fingers curling in. Ooh, I just got a release in my mid-back when I did that. Right into the pit of the palm. And then the thumb closing as many of the fingers as you can in towards the center of the palm, while the elbows remain heavy and the tops of the shoulders remain as relaxed as possible. Deep breath in here. And slowly peeling through the backs of the hands until the hands come back into Namaste Mudra in front of the heart. And pressing the wrists down as low as possible while the elbows stay wide. Big breath in here. And long breath out. And then begin to give the hands a little shake. Bringing energy into the hands, a little further stimulating the hands. Take the hands straight out in front of you as if you're in a plank position. And begin flashing your palms closed and open as vigorously and dynamically as possible. So we'll continue this for about a minute. Flashing the palms like blinking lights, and this could be sort of like the blinking light of the heart, awakening the heart energy from the center of your heart to your hands. I know it'll get a little tingly and slightly confusing to work your hands in a few moments, but let's say another 30 seconds here. Flashing, 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 and strengthening the wrists, the muscles of the hands, and coordination of the hands. And then gently taking the hands almost to touch in front of the heart, almost to touch. Noticing here any sensation between the hands, kind of a communication or dialogue between one hand and the other. Held right in front of the heart, almost like you could hold the energy of your heart in between your hands. Notice what that feels like. And you might also like to play with the distance of the palms a little further away from each other and a little closer towards one another. And that could also be done in relationship to your breath. So inhaling as you expand the space between your hands, and possibly expand the space in the center of your heart outward. And exhaling and drawing the hands a little closer toward one another, creating a little more concentration or potency in the energy of the heart, or toward the energy of the heart. And slowly drawing the hands back together to meet. And opening the eyes. Okay, let's come off the knees again. So into the hands and knees position, and you can separate your knees a little wider. We're going to take the right hand in front of the left hand. So it's way forward of the left and just stacked one in front of the other. Inhaling here. And on the exhale, begin to reach your hips up and back, bending through your right elbow and reaching, or bending through your left elbow, excuse me, and reaching through your right arm. And then inhale, shift forward. So just a forward and back motion here. As you exhale, shift back and stretch from the underside of your right shoulder blade all the way to your right pinky finger. And then inhale, shift forward. So shifting forward and back and stretching from the outer armpit to the baby finger as you go back. Inhale, shifting forward, and one more here, pulling the tissue softly outside of the arm a little longer. And then wait until the left hand to take the right hand and thread it underneath. So you come onto the right outer shoulder, right side of the face. Press through the ground with the right arm. And then begin reaching the left arm up towards the ceiling. And turn the heart space up towards the top hand, like you could reach the heart up into the left hand, even beyond the left fingertips up to the ceiling. And then possibly to bend the top elbow and wrap the arm either around the outside of the right waist or to reach onto the inner right thigh. Now, in addition to this, if it feels comfortable enough for you to press into the right elbow and bend the right elbow so the right fingertips could kind of nudge the left shoulder open, the head of the arm bone being drawn back with the help of the right fingertips and the right hand. And an option to even massage in the front of the collarbone and into the pec muscles, just across the chest towards the shoulder. I'll take one more breath there. And slowly release the bottom arm, release the top arm, press the top hand just in front of the face into the floor. To come back to hands and knees. And let's do the other side. So right hand is under right shoulder, left hand comes forward of the right hand, just as far forward as you feel. And you can toy with that distance. So exhaling as you pull back and inhaling as you shift forward. Really stretching once again from the outer bottom shoulder blade all the way to the baby finger side edge. Sort of think about the side seam of your shirt or yoga tank. And if it's long sleeves, you can almost go right down like an outer seam of a shirt. Stretching back and bending the right elbow as you shift back. And as you bend the right elbow, hug it in towards the center of your mat. And then from there, planting into the right hand, take the left arm under so you come onto the left outer shoulder, left side of the face. Press down through the left arm, reach up through the right. And notice the center of your heart reaching all the way through your right fingertips, through and up towards the sky. And breathing there. With equal weight in the knees, and bend the top elbow if possible. Hold the outside of the left waist or inside of the left thigh. Reaching out from the crown of your head, and then possibly bending the left elbow to nudge the right head of the arm bone back. Massaging just beneath the collarbone, into the pec area, and breathing here, widening across the chest. And then slowly releasing the bottom arm to straight, the right hand down in front of the face, and coming back into the hands and knees position. Begin circling the shoulders around. So the shoulders are kind of like wheels. If you could look at wheels from a side view, and they're rolling in the same direction. Right now I'm rolling my wheels back, my shoulder wheels. And then letting the rest of my spine kind of organically respond to how this movement is affecting the rest of the body. And then go the other way. So I'm now circling my wheels forward. Doesn't matter which direction, first or second. Just exploring all possibilities. And then one turning back and one turning forward, which is again a huge ask of the mind, and I'm getting confused, but there we go. Forward and back. It's important to check in if that's actually happening, because there we go, it kind of messes itself up. And then the other way. And messing it up is good. It's not a a bad thing. See, I'm going forward and forward, I noticed, but I want to go forward and back. Very confusing. Probably shouldn't be talking while I'm doing that. Forward and back. And might bring you some joy to explore this. And then sitting all the way back. From there, we're going to reach for a dowel. Now, if you don't have a dowel, you could use anything like a stick or a rolling pin. Or if you have lightweight blocks, you might be able to press 2 blocks together and hold them in your hands like so. And do the exact same exercise that I'll be doing with the dowel. So really anything between the palms. You could also just imagine something between the palms of the hands. And taking the arms outstretched in front of the heart, about shoulder height. We're going to protract and retract the shoulder blades. So as we push the object between the hands away from the heart, we also want to pull the heart away from the object or imaginary object. So pushing forward. And I'd love for us to experience pushing forward from the underside of the shoulder blade. So we'll just show that from the underside of the shoulder blade all the way through to that baby finger edge. And this is an action that's was taught to me twice in my life. Once from the genius, Pilates genius, Margot McKinnon, and once again brought to me from the yoga genius, Jules Mitchell. So pushing from the underside of the shoulder blade to the baby finger, side edge. And then the second action is pulling. And now we're pulling the dowel or imaginary object towards the heart and also reaching the heart towards the object. And the pulling is going to come from the thumb side edge up the inner arm, or up the inner arm, all the way into this inner pec area. Okay, so right where kind of a tank top strap or bra strap would be. Okay, so that's the pulling. Heart to the object, object to the heart without bending the elbows. So it's tricky. We want to bend the elbows, but we want to pull and feel that. So push and pull. See if you can push and really find that action from outer shoulder blades to baby fingers. And then pull and find the action from thumb, inner arms to inner armpits. Let's say inner armpits or pecs. Okay, push and pull. And let's add a breath to it. So we'll inhale as we pull, chest to the dowel or chest to the object, and exhale as we push, object and chest away. 2 more times. Trying to engage with those 2 lines of energy that we just discussed, from bottom tip of shoulder blade to baby finger, from thumb to inner armpit. And then the challenge is to create a balanced action, which means doing both of those actions at the exact same time. So can you push and pull simultaneously? And that should create, or might create, a circular kind of energy through the arms from the shoulder girdle. So noticing if you can feel that push and pull together in a fine balance. And then take the arms up overhead, continuing to access that circular energetic line, reaching from the bottom tip of the shoulder blade to the baby finger, pulling from the thumb side edge into the inner armpit, pushing and pulling simultaneously, accessing shoulder stability here, and then slowly taking the arms forward and down. And maybe you can recognize this movement here, this pattern of reaching up overhead with 2 actions happening simultaneously, and reaching about shoulder height distance in front as a transition that is really common in our yoga practice from downward facing dog, which we are in when our arms are overhead, and plank pose, which we experience as our hands in line with our shoulders or at shoulder height. So one more time, reaching and pulling on the way up, and reaching and pulling simultaneously on the way down. Okay, releasing the hands. Let's come off of our prop, our seated prop, and come into the hands and knees position again. And let's apply what we just learned in the hands and knees position. So hands under shoulders, knees under hips. We're going to push the heart away from the hands and the hands away from the heart. And then pull the hands and the heart a little closer toward one another. And that'll give you something like what you may know as cat-cow, but really focused around the shoulder girdle. So from bottom tip of shoulder blade to baby finger, and from inner thumb to inner armpit. Pushing, let's exhale as we push. Pulling, inhale as we pull. And one more there, pushing, trying to have straight elbows while we move from the shoulder blades, and pulling, chest towards inner thumbs. Can you do two things at once? So again, asking for both of those actions to happen simultaneously from bottom of shoulder blade to baby finger side, push, but also pull up into the inner corners of the chest. And that should give you some sort of feeling of stability. So when we can access that circular pattern together, we might feel a little more strength and stability in the shoulders. Can we keep that in the right arm? And reach the left arm forward, but continue reaching and pulling in both directions, even with the lifted arm and the bottom arm. And then adding an opposite leg to challenge that stability even further. Now inhale, lengthen from the crown of your head to your tail, and access both push and pull from the shoulder blade to the baby finger, from the thumb into the inner corner of the chest. One more breath here. And slowly returning hand and knee. So doing the other side, finding both actions first, and then keeping both actions while the right arm reaches forward and the left arm continues to support the body with the left leg back, reaching and pulling simultaneously. And breathing. Bottom tip of shoulder blade to baby finger, thumb into inner corner of the chest, and one more breath there. And then slowly returning the hand and the knee. Big toes touch, sitting back in child's pose. Taking the hands towards the heels. Just closing that circuit once again. And allowing the shoulders to round forward and down here for a few breaths. So can we up the ante, reaching the arms forward, shoulder distance apart, and grounding through index fingers, knuckles, baby finger knuckles, thumb side base, shifting forward, and right away push and pull as we curl the toes under, and transition into downward facing dog as if we have that dowel or that imaginary object in hand, and we could explore both the full range of heart away from hands, which would take shoulders up towards the ears, and then pulling hands towards the heart, which would take us really far forward in our downward dog. Just really exploring both of those extreme ranges. So what is available to us And then can we access both at the same time? So push and pull in coordination. And noticing if that gives us some access into greater stability in the shoulder joint as we reach the hips up and back. The knees can be bent. Just focus on the shoulder girdle here. And lastly, from plank to downward facing dog. So can we maintain the actions of pushing and pulling as we transition from downward dog to plank and plank to downward facing dog? And you might gain some insight on which of those two actions your body could use a little more than the other, and it might be different from one arm or shoulder girdle to the next. So let's take our knees to the floor, give that a little rest, sit back on the heels, and give those shoulders a little circle out. Thank you so much. There's much more to that practice. I hope you'll join me in class or just take that practice for what it is and give me feedback. Namaste.